Welcome in, everybody. I'm here today. What an honor it is to be with the head women's basketball coach at North Carolina A&T, Tarrell Robinson. Coach, thank you for your time today. I know we're in the middle peak of season of conference play, the halfway point right now. And so we're not going to talk X's and O's today, but what we are going to do is just really shine a light on this month in February, which is Black History Month. And by doing that, we want to learn about you. I want to learn about your journey and how people have really paved the way for you to occupy spaces in the realm of basketball. So when you look back on your life, when did you really realize, like, man, people have really gone before me to open these doors and create these opportunities for you?
Even from, one, thank you for
Yeah.
offering me this opportunity. It's not, like you said, during this time of the year that you get a chance to kind of go off script of basketball and be able to, talk about some real life, situations. But I mean, since my childhood, I owe a lot of where I'm at today to people who just, for whatever reason, opened up their arms and kind of gave me, direction. I can remember when I first started playing basketball, which was in the ninth grade, which is kind of late, and that was because of Randy Holmes, who was my junior high middle school coach. He was the assistant football coach. Football was my passion.
Wow.
And he asked me to play basketball, for his team, when I was in the ninth grade. And I played, and he would pick me up for practice. He had kids that played, and he would bring me over to their house. And he introduced me to a gentleman that everybody knows named Michael Jordan. And once I, got a look at Mike, and that really inspired me to love the game of basketball, to really focus on it versus football. And that is what got me into basketball. I never thought that I would be going to college for basketball as I transitioned to how I got to North Carolina A&T State University. I was a mid to low major talent player based on my recruitment, but I was a non-qualifier, coming out of high school, and had to go to prep school. And even after the year of prep school, still did not meet my SAT scores. And I was not, say it up front, I was not a dumb kid. I was lazy. I had a really good high SAT score, and when I got my score as a junior in high school, I thought I was set, and I kind of checked out as far as doing my classwork. So, anyways, I had to go to prep school, and I did not get my grades, my scores in time. And all the schools that were recruiting me at the time, there were a lot of PWIs that were recruiting me, and a few HBCUs recruiting me. And two in particular said, "We want you whether you're qualified or not." And that was South Carolina State, North Carolina A&T State University. I had committed to South Carolina State out of high school. I had made the decision to go to prep school because I didn't want to be a Prop 48. In that year, North Carolina A&T State University stole my heart, and they still opened up with me being ineligible at the time. They said, "We want you here regardless." And that was why I chose A&T and stayed close to home, and played basketball there. Now, as far as my college career went and why I got into coaching, I played for two coaches. I went there for and played for Coach Roy Thomas. Bill Pope, his assistant, recruited me there. But when Coach Thomas was only there for 2 years, and Curtis Hunter, his then assistant, took over. At the end of my senior year, I wanted to play basketball, and I was injury plagued. I had back issues and all that stuff. And Coach Hunter called me in his office, and he said that he could get me a job overseas, or what he thought would be a good idea was for me to get involved in coaching. Like, I never really understood why I was always the guy they called for official visits to host. I was always
Uh-huh.
the guy they called to do tours. I was obviously team captain. I was a guy that they reached out to when things were going on with the team. And he made a comment to me that still today really moves me. He called me a consummate pro. He said
Wow.
that I always was serious and went about my business the right way, and he thought I could be successful in this profession. So he said, I can get you a job overseas making minimum money, or I can get you, you can start working on your masters, and you can actually get into this career as far as coaching. So I, made the decision to become a graduate assistant for him. I was a graduate assistant for a year and a half prior to a young lady I'm sure everybody knows. She was a really good basketball player, Hall of Famer out of the University of Georgia, Saudia Roundtree. became the women's coach here at A&T in my second year as a graduate assistant. And she had ended up removing an assistant at the time because for whatever reason, I'm not sure, it was around homecoming. She removed the gentleman, and I was just kind of helping her out with her post players because she needed a hand and she didn't have anyone to help her. So I did that probably for the entire first semester. And then at the end of the going into the second semester, she asked me would I be interested in being her full-time assistant. Now
Wow.
at the time, the way life happens, then my girlfriend, now wife, was pregnant with my son, and I'm thinking, you know, I was making 12,000 with a stipend as a graduate assistant with the men, and being a women's assistant would triple that with benefits. So it was a no-brainer for me. So
No,
I
no
took
brainer.
that, yeah. So I took that opportunity and tried to make the most of it, but still thought that I was a boys coach versus a girls
Huh.
coach. So I left there after that year and went into high school for 2 years and worked with a guy named James Abel at T. Wingate Andrews High School in High Point, North Carolina. I did that for 2 years and ended up some way, somehow, because one of my closest friends in this business, and I consider one of my best friends, Tarrell Adams, who's now the associate head coach at Central Florida.
Mhm.
Um, Stardia Roundtree had left A&T, and Coach Patricia Cage Bibbs had taken over, and she had hired Tarrell Adams and Freddie Murray, who's now the Grambling State head coach. Coach Murray got an opportunity at McNeese State around August, and me and Tarrell had met. And it's crazy how things work. So I
Yeah.
was one of the few people Tarrell met here in Greensboro, North Carolina, and she called me one night, close to midnight. My wife didn't know why anyone was calling me that late. She had locked her keys. She had locked her keys in her car, and she could not. She didn't know anybody in the city but me,
Huh.
and her wallet and all that was in there. So she called me, and I got up. I drove to campus. We got a locksmith to come and unlock her door, and I shared my experiences, obviously being at A&T and what I was doing right then. And she told me, you know what, Coach Bibbs is looking for an assistant. I said, oh, okay. She said, I'm going to mention your name and kind of see what happens from there. So she mentioned my name. Coach Bibbs reached out to me maybe 2 days later, and it was a 20-minute conversation. She offered me the position as her assistant coach. I was with Coach Bibbs for 5 years as her associate head coach. We had a tremendous amount of success, enough success that Beth Cunningham, who was the head coach at Virginia Commonwealth at the time, she's now the head coach at Missouri State,
Uh-huh.
offered me an opportunity to go and work with her. And I took it because I thought it was an opportunity of growth, because I think that's very important, in this profession, to always strive for that. And I did 3 years at VCU, and it was one of the best things I could have ever done in terms of just giving me a bigger understanding of this profession and what we as college coaches should be doing from a business standpoint. And then during my third year there, the athletics director here, and I didn't talk about him enough. When I was a player, he was the compliance coordinator here, Earl
Wow.
Hilton.
Wow.
Coach Bibbs was retiring, and he was looking for a new coach. And I had some other opportunities at Power Five schools to be an associate head coach, and he told me to come and sit down and talk to him. And I had told him, like, is it one of those things where I'm a candidate, because I got to make some quick
Right.
decisions. He said, just come and talk. Let's come and talk. And when I showed up, he asked me, was I ready to be a head coach? And I said, yes, I am. I think I am. He's like, are you ready to be the head coach here at your alma mater? And I'm like, absolutely, sir. I am. And the rest is history. That was 11 years ago. But the people that I mentioned, to me, when I think about the path that I've taken, it was because people cared about me, and I'm sure at some point that I showed the type of character, integrity that they, somebody they wanted to pour into, and that got me where I'm at today. And that's one of the things I always talk to young people about. Like, it's important. Your first impression of what people think of you is always important, because you never know when you're gonna need them.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing all that. And it's literally what I'm thinking this entire time was it's amazing how these steps for you were ordered, like whether you knew it or not, like
Yeah,
whether you
absolutely.
thought like, oh, I was going to walk into this or not, like they were there for you, but you had to take those steps. As people were opening the door, you had to walk through it, even if it was unexpected for you. And it's cool. I was listening to a video, and an NBA player was talking about how, sometimes you're not always the most skilled, you're not always the most qualified, but because you have the obsession or the passion, or like you said, the character to do something, people see that. And so
Yep.
I'm curious, how have you now, especially on the women's side, because what a good opportunity to see that in women, right? Like
hmm
necessary. How have you been able to pull that out of your women and now be that coach who's like, oh, I see you as a coach, or I see you as a leader, or I see you as XYZ. Like, how have you been able to do that now in your role?
Well, like we try to put them in situations where that happens. Like I just this past weekend, with what we're doing right now, being 8-1, I'll walk to our circle and I'll just straight up ask our captains, what do y'all have to say?
Wow.
And they're not really expecting it, but this is your moment of leadership. And I tell them that you have to understand, like everybody, when you ask them what they want to do in life, they talk about owning something or being the boss of something. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, well, you don't just become that when that opportunity comes. You prepare yourself for it. And that is what this is all about. So we try to educate and try to pour into and put them in some uncomfortable moments to see how they respond, and in this environment of nurturing and caring, knowing that it's okay to fail and we're here to help pick you up.
Mm, wow. Okay to fail and okay to be picked up. And I think in life, there's so much failure, right? But I think in one of the questions that I have for you, just overall in this conversation of, racial equality and people wanting change for tomorrow, how does change take place today? Like, how can we put ourselves in uncomfortable positions where we might fail, but we might grow from that today for it to be better for your ladies tomorrow?
The thing that you just said, and there's a quote, that you have to be the change that you want to see in the world.
Mhm.
Like it's an individual choice to either choose to be a part of something that encourages, that, or be a part of something that makes it better. And we have to, shed that light. We have to walk in that path, alone. What you say, the habits that you build, what you do, are things that are either going to, be for good or be for bad. And we talk to our young women about that, obviously being a historically Black college, that we have to make sure that we're not, it doesn't look like a crutch,
Mm.
that it looks like an opportunity to prepare yourself for challenges to where, when you go down the line, you haven't seen a challenge that you haven't met and that you haven't overcome.
Wow, that's true. And like you mentioned, being a historically Black university college, like what weight is that you carry? You played for North Carolina A&T, and like the Aggie pride, I've been able to witness what that looks like. Like it's one word to read like Aggie pride. It's one thing to read
hmm
it, but another
hmm
thing to witness that in the locker room, on the court, in the way that you go about your business. So like what weight is that you carry of representing your university? How important is that to you?
Carly, it's not even a weight. It's a sense of pride, a sense of ownership, something that I value, being a part of, and that I tell our young people and young people that we recruit. It's a uniqueness. Like you have to be an overcomer. You have to be someone that's okay being in the light. As we talked about, failing or having success, like you got to respond in that moment. And again, the biggest thing is that it's going to prepare you for the next chapter of your life, the next opportunity that you come in. So it's not weight at all. Like I put this hat on every day and I'm proud of it. And I know that when I'm walking into the store, when we're going on the road, that we're giving everybody our best representation of ourselves.
Yeah. And how important is that representation to have opportunities, not just in the sport of women's basketball, but in life for everything.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's what the person that's hiring wants. They want someone that's going to, push the narrative in terms of the product or the opportunity that they're trying to sell to someone. And, if you, like I talked about, going, just not even thinking about it as weight, like I know that it's the right thing, that I'm a part of something special, and that people should envy me. They should want to be a part of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I could just ask you this, like, again, I know you're mid-season stride, so we're not talking X's and O's here, but if there is one thing like each year that you want to deposit in this group, above the wins, above the losses, above whatever, what do you want to deposit in this group of women that would really just propel them forward in the best light?
Just soaking in the moment, soaking in the experience, the opportunity. You don't get this, like this, even the situation that we're in with our group. I continue to tell them like it's special, it's unique, it's rare. Let's not just go through it. Let's actually digest it. Let's actually see, experience how this feels, to not take things for granted, to not overlook things, not overlook our opponents. You say no X's and O's, but I have to throw that in there. Like we have to be, be in the moment, to be in the room, and you're going to gain something from it, and that's whether we succeed or we fail. That's the only way that you're going to grow is by failing and understanding what did I do wrong. And as I talked about, putting them in situations where, like I said with my captains, like, what do you guys have to offer? What do you have to say? And I asked them again the next day, and they were more prepared. So they grew in that moment.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. This what we're going through right now, what we're experiencing. I'm so thankful and blessed, and it gives me opportunity to give constant life lessons every day, even in winning. There's still things that we have to do to make sure we don't lose the next game or the next opportunity. And I just, every day preach it to them. And so far so good. We'll see. We got a young group.
Yeah.
But the things that we can offer, that I can offer, and not just to our young women and people in general, is my experience and my story. For the next person that wants to navigate through this path.
I'm so thankful that you shared your story today. Seriously, I'm so grateful that you took the time just to chat about this off the court. And of course, wishing you all the best. And I love watching you. Like I couldn't even put into words Aggie pride, what I've witnessed. It's just such a joy to watch you guys operate, and thankful to be a part of it for sure.
Thank you so much. And thank you to CAA.